Hello there, welcome to Premier League Today as we delve into the stories making the headlines. Liverpool go into the international break top of the table, but Jurgen Klopp is counting on a rock and roll end to the season. Pep Guardiola, meanwhile, knows the quadruple is well and truly on for Manchester City as they reach another semi-final. It's a sorry state for Chelsea following a dismal defeat at Everton, which cranks up the pressure on the Italian boss. And after Manchester United are thrown to the Wolves, is Ole still in the driving seat? Remember to get your questions into us as the show goes on. Use the hashtag PLToday and we'll put the best of them to our headline makers, who are Vishali Bharadwaj of the London Evening Standard and European football expert Julian Laurence. Let's start with the Premier League leaders. Can Klopp's men hold their nerve in the title run-in?
We have to win and to win and to win. That's our job to do.
Jurgen Klopp has hailed his side's battling 2-1 win at Fulham as a sensational result.
He's dug out a beauty! Oh, he's completely free! And on he goes! Oh, it's on a plate! It is 5!
Headline, nobody gets rid of us.
It's Mo Salah for Liverpool! For Mo Salah!
As a manager, I always want perfection. It's really rare that you get it.
Mane scored! Zidane fires it in! And breathes!
City, they don't look and they drop a lot of points.
And Mane scores again! Still the dispatches!
Nothing is decided, but we can make sure that we stay in the race. We stay in the race and we want to stay in the race. And today, we showed that, so all good.
So it's Liverpool back on top of the pile. They took their chance, beating Fulham away at Craven Cottage by 2-1. Jurgen Klopp summed it up afterwards. He said, average game, sensational result. Is that how you saw it?
Sensational, certainly in terms of the wider context of the season, you know, just keeping the pace up, going above City as well in the Premier League standings. It was important because they were staring at a draw. Until the penalty came, and obviously that's one of the reasons why they haven't been able to really pull away from City, because they've drawn 7 games so far this season, and they've only lost once, but they definitely didn't want to drop any points, and they don't want to drop any more points until the end of the season. So that was sensational in terms of what it means for their title hopes.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because James Milner had that penalty after 81 minutes. So much resting on it at the time, you know, considering that everybody said that Liverpool had bottled it only a couple of weeks ago, but they've managed to win 4 of the last 5 in all competitions. They certainly didn't choke it from the penalty spot.
No, and he never does, to be fair, and every time he scores, Liverpool win as well. But it would have been sensational for me had Liverpool not win that game. To be fair, they were in control until that misunderstanding between Alisson and Van Dijk. Should have never happened. I mean, Fulham are really, really poor. They're a poor team. And if Liverpool had dropped points, for me, that would have been more sensational than them winning away a game that they should have won and were very comfortable in until the last few minutes.
Yeah, and what it does do, it actually caps what was a terrific week for Liverpool. If you look at what they've done in the last 3 games in particular, well, they're certainly back amongst the goals, but Bayern, Burnley and Fulham was always seen as perhaps a season-defining period in the, you know, for them generally.
Yeah, absolutely. Klopp said this time last season, had they got those run of fixtures, they probably might have dropped points somewhere along the line. But to go to Munich, to get that result, what a performance it was from his side, to beat Burnley and obviously to beat Fulham as well. Given the pressure that's on their shoulders, both in the Champions League and the Premier League, I think it was a very, very good week for them. James
Pearce of the Liverpool Echo, he said back in 09 and 14, Liverpool weren't able to complete the job after thrilling away wins over Fulham during the run. In this time, though, genuine belief that there'll be a happy ending in pursuit of the Holy Grail. It's not in the Reds' hands, but this is still a position of real strength, considering that City's game in hand is a trip to Old Trafford next month.
Yeah, I mean, if we look at the 2 sets of fixtures, I don't think it's that easy to say, oh, City have an easier run of fixtures or Liverpool have. I think they're both hard for different reasons, and the trip to Old Trafford is one. Liverpool will have to play Chelsea and Tottenham as well, but City also have Spurs. It'd be fascinating until the end. I remember seeing Fabinho after the 0-0 draw at Old Trafford, where Liverpool were going back top as well, and he said, for us, all we want is to be above them. We don't want to be the teams hunting City. We want to be hunted by City. For us, psychologically, it's huge to be, even if we just level on point, but on goal difference ahead of them, we would rather much being the hunted than the hunters.
So you don't go with this theory that, considering Liverpool haven't been there and done it in the Premier League era, that they're more comfortable being the ones that are chasing City at the top?
It was interesting because when they played after City a couple of weeks ago, it looked like they had the pressure on them. They looked quite nervy in some of the performances when they drew against Leicester, obviously West Ham. But if that's what Fabinho is saying, clearly the mentality is that they're confident. They think that they can actually win the title off City. And I think they developed as a group over the last 18 months or so. I think their run in the Champions League last year really helped their mentality. So they haven't won the Premier League, yes, but I think now they've kind of matured as a group, and I think that's helping them in their title run this season.
Okay, so what about the one goal they did concede against Fulham? You mentioned it, didn't you, about this kind of lack of communication between James Milner, essentially. And I love the quote when he said that Jurgen Klopp said, go in there and calm things down. And the first thing he did was misplace the pass. And then you had the obvious breakdown in communication between Van Dijk and Alisson. It just goes to show, though, Liverpool can shoot themselves in the foot. And they don't want that to cost them between now and May.
No, absolutely not. And I think if you think about how many mistakes the likes of Van Dijk, Alisson and Milner will make this season until the end of the season, they're not going to be very many.
No.
So I think you can allow them that one slip up. Perhaps it was a level of complacency, playing Fulham, dominating the game, leading that game, and just one moment of miscommunication leads to a goal. But they got back in there. They won the penalty, rightly so, and they got the 3 points. So that was a key thing for them.
Yeah. Why the wry smile from you?
No. Simply because I just think, they don't make many mistakes. But in a game under pressure like this, that's where you see people who make mistakes or not. And I don't think City will make many mistakes either. And it will all be down to the one that make the less mistakes. And in mistakes, I mean also a big chance that you missed, for example. And that penalty that Milner scored, it could have been a mistake had he missed it. So it's all those little details, a back pass, a back header, a missed tackle, a missed pass, a missed opportunity on a chance will be so important between now and the end of the season.
And that's interesting because that's how hard City have made any other team trying to take their title off them, because they've been so good that even Liverpool drawing games is no longer good enough. They have to win every game. So it just goes to show you City have just upped the bar and raised it.
Yeah, it's interesting because you normally put it down to hyperbole when someone says that Liverpool have to win the rest of their games in the Premier League to stand any chance of winning the title. But you're right, the way City are going, it might boil down to, even if both of them win all their games between now and then. And so where does this leave us in terms of the title race? Is it any easier to work out at this stage?
I don't think it is any easier. I think the Champions League will play a big part in it.
Yeah.
So let's say Liverpool get knocked out by Porto, which I don't think will happen, but anything is possible.
Yeah.
Or City by Spurs. I think that would be a big push for either of them towards the Premier League. However, they both still want to continue in the Champions League and obviously still fight for the Premier League. So you'd have to look away matches as well, and I'm not sure we can say that one is easier than the others. Home matches, then you see the game against Chelsea and Spurs. We say for Liverpool and Spurs, and then away United for City. But yeah, like we said, it's going to be so tight until the end.
And look, there are so many things to take into consideration. The Wolves game right at the end for Liverpool, that could come 6 days before Wolves might play in the FA Cup final. So how will they play their team by the time they take on a Liverpool side going for the title at that point? And then you've got to factor in the Champions League draw, as you said, which City have already got to play Tottenham already in the league, and they've got 2 more meetings in the Champions League for 3 meetings in 11 days. So does that spell for City? Could it boil down to that?
I think the Champions League running might have a big part to play in terms of how these teams then go out and what team they put out in the Premier League. Guardiola's obviously thinking about the Champions League as well. And, that competition is important for City. Guardiola's under pressure to win that competition.
Yeah.
So he needs to take it seriously. I mean, I think Liverpool are under less pressure to get to the final as they were last season because they've been there. For them, I think the Premier League is their priority. But for City, I think it will go. I think it might go down to the Champions League for them. I think they'll be thinking and looking at that.
I think if Liverpool win the Premier League and City the Champions League, everyone will be very happy. I know City will miss out on the quadruple, but they would be so happy with the Champions League, which is the owner's dream and has always been.
Yeah.
And Liverpool, for the first time in 29 years, winning the Premier League. And I think that would really make everyone happy. Of course, if Liverpool can win the Champions League and the Premier League, they will do it, and same for City.
Yeah.
But if you just
it suits both parties in some respect.
Very much so.
Yeah. Let's just dig beneath the surface for Liverpool at the weekend and look at some of the individual performances. Sadio Mane, his hot streak continues. He's now hit 20 goals in all competitions, and he certainly made the headlines as a result. 11 in his last 11. Is it fair to say, Vishali, that the Senegalese international has become the driving force for Liverpool behind this title challenge? Absolutely,
and particularly in the last couple of months where Mohamed Salah, I think, hasn't scored now in 5 Premier League games. Roberto Firmino's 2 goals against Burnley were his first in 5 Premier League games. So those two have been going through a bit of a goal drought. But in their absence in terms of goals, this guy has stepped up. It's 11 goals in his last 11 games, and that's what you need from a front three. Last season they were so fluid, so good, all 3 of them. But this season some of them have had a bit of issues scoring of late. But at least if one of them is scoring, that is the important thing, and Mane is certainly doing that.
Ian Watson from Football 365 said the Senegal striker isn't the biggest star in his own team, but no one is shining brighter in the Premier League right now. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think so. I think he's the best player in the league right now. His character and his personality makes him not the biggest star in terms of name, because he's not that kind of guy.
Yeah.
So he will always be quite quiet and quite introvert anyway. But certainly on the pitch, it's more the efficiency, because he always created chances before. But the fact that this season he's taken pretty much every chance that he has, whether he's scoring or assisting or getting the penalty, that very crucial penalty we saw against Fulham.
Yeah.
He's there in those key moments, whereas I think he got a bit missing. He went missing the last couple of seasons in those key moments at times where he was not clinical enough. He certainly has improved on that level.
And just compare his stats with the other members of the front three for Liverpool. They've all been pulling their weight, I suppose, but for Mane, he's clearly been their most consistent performer. And in that respect, has he surprised you, Vishali?
I don't think he's surprised me in terms of his ability to score goals, although there have been question marks over some of the easier chances that he's had, and he's missed those ones.
Yeah.
I think it's a case of sometimes when you score goals and you go on a good run, you get more confident. You score more goals, and you saw the way he took that goal against Munich. Wow, that was impressive. So I think that it hasn't surprised me. He's part of a really good attacking trio, and he's taken on the responsibility of stepping up when he needed to really, really well.
On the one hand, you said just now, Julian, that he is the least heralded of their front three. But should he be a serious contender for Player of the Year?
I think so. If he continues like this, if he delivers the title, not by him, there's a team behind him, but almost by himself, 100%. The first title in 29 years, after a season, if he continues like this, where he could easily get up to 25 Premier League goals, which would be incredible for a player, let's not forget, who plays as a winger. He's a wide player, he's not a centre forward.
Yeah.
And for him to already be on 17 goals in the league, which is by far his best tally, since he moved to the Premier League at Southampton, is pretty special.
Yeah, absolutely. You'd have to consider him, because he's right up there in terms of the goal scoring charts in the Premier League. And if Liverpool go on to win the title, he will have been a big reason behind that.
Actually, Julian, it's good that you're in the studio, because France Football have been reporting today concrete interest from Real Madrid in Sadio Mane. Is there anything you can tell us about that? Yeah,
he's part of their wish list with other players like Eden Hazard, and I don't think they would sign both Hazard and Mane. I think Mane is there if Hazard doesn't happen, or the other way around, whatever. But with that kind of form, there's, of course, top clubs in Europe, whether that's Real Madrid or others, will be after him. I think he's very happy at Liverpool, he's very happy with club. There's obviously a case that if Real Madrid comes knocking, it's hard to turn them down, and I get that, and many players before couldn't resist going to Real Madrid, so it'd be interesting to see if they actually really come for him.
What is interesting is that kind of effect it has on an individual, and because Sadio Mane is quite a quiet character, you assume paper talk such as this, even if it is more than just paper talk, it won't get to him. And it won't affect him for Liverpool, which is what they will fear ultimately.
Yeah, I mean, you might hope that it drives him on even more. Look, all these big clubs are watching me. I want to show them even more what I can do. But from what I know, he's fully focused on Liverpool, and he's very happy there, I think, at the club.
Yeah. In terms of Mohamed Salah, now, of course, he was the Player of the Year last season, but he's not been firing on all cylinders. Without a goal in his last 7, I think it's now 4 in his last 14. But do those figures accurately reflect his contribution for Liverpool at the minute, or not?
I think it's a hard one. There's that incredible assist for Mane's second goal in Munich, for example, with that cross. Is fantastic.
Yeah.
So he's still capable of doing those moments of brilliance. And the fact as well that even if he doesn't score, because of what he did last year, the opposition's defence, and especially left back or left centre half, will be so focused on him that will undoubtedly gives more freedom to Mane and Firmino or whoever else from midfield, because the focus is still so much on Salah, even if he's not scoring as much as last season. So in many ways, he's still very important for this Liverpool team. However, they could do with him being a bit more clinical. And last season, he was way over clinical than what he should be. And his famous expected goals, he was scoring more goals than he should have been, really.
Yeah.
And this season is maybe a bit the other way around. So if there's a middle line to find somewhere.
Yeah, but do we see examples of him snatching at chances, maybe even keeping the ball longer than he ordinarily would and not pass to his teammates in a bid to get out of this rut?
Yeah, I think there's a sense of frustration from his point of view. You know, maybe he's trying a bit too hard at times to get a goal. There's also an element of, there's a bit of predictability about some of the way he's taking some of those shots, but he's still working hard. And I think it's important to note that he's part of this attacking trio. So what he does off the ball, it helps the other two work. So, you know, he's still important to that team, but obviously if he could score a few more goals, that would obviously help Liverpool's case.
Just to sum up, Liverpool and Manchester City, Michael Cox from ESPN wrote that Klopp's assessment of the home side, Fulham, seemed a touch generous at the weekend. But then again, Fulham's next opponent, he writes, is Manchester City. So why not give the Cottagers a confidence boost and the belief that they can win next time out? And talking of Manchester City, of course, they were in FA Cup action. And what an incredible performance. 2-0 down, and they look well off the pace in some respects.